Hello, my name is Knight Gideon, and today we are going to add a domain controller to an existing domain in Windows Server 2016. We already have a domain controller DCO1, okay, and we are going to add DCO2 to DCO1 as a domain controller. So what we are going to do is we are going to get a PC and install Server 2016 operating system on it, okay. And secondly, we are going to change the computer's name to DCO2, okay. And again, we provide IP address for the computer by setting it static. And again, after setting our IP address, we will install Active Directory domain services role on it, and then we promote the server to a domain controller, okay. Yeah, so for no wasting time, let's get to our server and start doing. So this is the DCO2 that we have, the server. We already have, this is our main server. And this is our domain controller 1, okay. This one have a database of Active Directory. So if you check here, you can see Active Directory domain service. So the role have already been installed, and this server has been promoted to a domain. So this is our first domain controller, DCO1, okay. So we are going to add another domain controller to this one, okay. So somebody will say, what are the benefits for adding domain controllers in our network? The benefit for adding domain controllers in our network is that if you have a domain controller 1, okay, and you add, let's say, domain controller 2 to it, and again you can add a domain controller 3, the benefit is that if domain controller 1 is not there, let's say the domain controller 1 dies today, domain controller 2 is there, okay, and domain controller 3 too is there to provide services for clients. But let's say you are having only one domain controller and something happened, and let's say it gets off or it goes off. No users cannot log into their computers, because that domain controller contains the password, everything, every information concerning all the computers in your company, users, policies, everything. So if the domain controller 1 goes off and there is no any domain controllers to support, it means no services is available for everybody, and nobody can use his computer, okay. To be difficult if somebody asks of password, fine, you can log into your machine, your client machine, but you cannot get services running, okay. So the benefits for installing domain controllers are redundancy. If one is done today, the other one is there. And again, performance. Let's say you are having a company with 19,000 millions of people, okay, and these people, domain controller 1 can handle, but they will not get things fast as they like or they want it. So if you add domain controller 2, domain controller 2 is going to help domain controller 1. If let's say domain controller 1 have taken 2,000 people, domain controller 2 can also take 2,000 people, so that services will be what, running quickly. Else, if domain controller 1 takes about 2,000 people, it will be slow. Or let's say if the server machine is not powerful, it can what, slow things down, and later I don't think a good thing will happen to your company. So the purpose for installing domain controllers on our network is for the redundancy and for performance. Okay, so let's get to our DCO2. I mean, this is our domain controller 1, and for the we are going to add another domain controller, and we are going to call this a domain controller 2. Okay, so somebody will say, domain controller, this guy has been saying domain controller. What is the meaning, what is the actual meaning of domain controller, and what are you talking about? Brother, is that domain controller is not anything what different. Domain controller means a server that hosts Active Directory what database is called domain controller. So any server that hosts Active Directory domain service database is called what, a domain controller. So this is our second machine. So what we are going to do is we are going to what, change the name for the of this machine. Okay, so you click on any folder. Before we change the name, we are going to what, set IP address. Okay, then we change the name. So right click on network icon and click on open network and sharing center. Click on network, change network adapter setting, click on Ethernet. Okay, sorry, right click on Ethernet and click on properties. So double click on what, internet protocol version 4, and we are going to what, change the IP address for this. We are not going to use any DHCP. So what we do is we give this machine an IP address of 192.168.1. we already have .2, which is our DCO1. So we are going to give this server .3. So our domain controller 2, the IP address is .3. When you click subnet, you provide your subnet mask, provides your default gateway 192.168.1.1, and your preferred or DNS server. We are going to use domain controller 1's IP address, because domain controller 1 is also a what, DNS server. So 192.168.1.2, and again this server 2 can become a what, a DNS server, because we are going to install. But you just, let's leave it like that. Okay, and click OK. Then OK. Then we've set the IP address for this what, for this server static. Okay, and what we are going to do again is we are going to what, we are going to what, we are going to rename this computer. So click on the any folder, click on this PC, right click on this PC and click on properties. Okay, this is a server OS, so Windows Server 2016. Okay, and we are going to change the name. Okay, click change settings click change. So what name are we going to, this is the domain controller 2. Okay, so type when dash dco what 2. We already have dco1 and this is our domain controller 2, and you click OK. Your computer must restart your computer to apply these changes. You must restart your computer to apply these changes. Okay. We can choose to restart later, but let's restart it now. So our server is what restarting, and this server is now, we've not what added to our domain, and we are going to add this server to our domain and then what promote it to be a domain what controller. So let me teach you 2 things before we add it to the domain and promote it to be a domain controller. So if you click on tools on our main DCO1, domain controller 1, you can see in our domain controller 1, that's K-BEST.IT.com. If you click on domain controllers, we only have one server. Okay, so this is DCO1. Okay, and we don't have 2 or 3 domain controllers, only one server, and we have IT department, research departments, sales department, accounts department on this computer. Okay, and if we create a different domain controller, I mean what we are doing, we create a different, let's say domain controller 2, everything here will be in domain controller 2. Everything here will be replicated to the second domain controller. We are not going to copy it, it will replicate by default. Okay, here, so let's see whether our server is on. Okay, our server is on, so let's enter our password and start doing things. So now on this server, if you type, let's say host name, you are going to get DCO2 because we are now in our domain controller 2. Okay, and here we don't have Active Directory now, but we are going to install the role and start doing things. So we had a PC installed and we've installed Windows Server 2016 on it. Secondly, we've changed the PC name, we've set the IP address to static. We are going to install Active Directory role on the computer. Okay, so before we install Active Directory role on this server, let's add it to the domain so that the domain will recognize our server, else the domain will not see our server because it have not been added to the domain. So we are going to add this machine to the domain. So click on any folder, Explorer. I click on this PC properties, system properties is here. Click change settings, and here we are going to what? Add it to our domain controller 1. Okay, so we want to add this server to our domain before we can promote it and make it a domain controller. So type K-BEST.com and press enter. Then the server will respond, who are you? You will tell the server, I am administrator, and this is my password. I want to add this server to the domain. Let's see what our server does. Okay, welcome to K-BEST.com. Now our server has been added to the domain. Again, we are going to restart this server, and we can choose to restart it later. Okay, so let's restart it later. And now we are going to install what? Active Directory role on our server. So click on server manager, and this is server manager. Maximize and click on manage, add rules and features. Next, select role based or future based installation. Next, this is our DCO 2, domain controller 2. And next, you select Active Directory domain service. Okay, add features. Next, installed. So now we are installing Active Directory role on the second what? Domain controller. Okay, so after the installation of Active Directory domain service, we then promote it to be a domain controller. Okay, so you can choose to promote it to be a child domain, but we are going to promote it to be a domain controller, because this is not a child domain to us. We are creating a domain controller. If somebody was to create a child domain, the person will go through the process up to this stage, and what if the person is promoting the server, the person will select add a domain controller in existing forest. Okay, but for now we are going to add a domain controller here, because our company is having plenty workers. Okay, and we want everything to be fast for us. So the installation is on. So the installation for Active Directory domain service role have finished. So click close, and let's promote this server to a domain controller. Okay, so click this yellow button at the notification area and click promote this server to a domain controller. So select the deployment operation. We are going to add a domain controller to an existing domain. So we are going to select the first one. We are not going to select the second or the third one. We are going to select the first one. In what domain? In K-BEST.com. Okay, so we are going to add a domain controller to K-BEST.com. Okay, supply the credential to perform this operation. Administrator, current user. Okay, so let's type administrator here. Administrator, and provide the password 5 and click OK. So I am administrator and I want to add a domain controller to my domain K-BEST.com. Okay, so click next, and here domain controller option is asking us that this domain controller that you want to install in our domain, is it going to be a read-only domain controller or is what? So no, this domain controller is what? A domain controller to our what? Domain, and these services DNS server should be installed on this what? Domain controller, and again global catalog service should be what? Installed. So the site name, we are leaving it to be the default site name because it's in our company where the first domain controller is. We are not going to move it to a different site. Okay, so we provide our password and we continue. So click next to continue, because it's going to install DNS on this domain controller. You get something about DNS, update DNS delegation and a sort of things. So click next, and what we are getting in the additional option is specify install from media option. Okay, do you want to install from media, or you want to specify additional replication option? Replicate from what? You want to replicate from any domain controller in our what? In our domain, and we don't have plenty domain controller, we are only having one domain controller, so probably it will replicate from this domain controller, but let's leave it as default, any domain controller, and click what? Next. So I once told you Active Directory is a database, so we are going to promote this second server to a domain controller, and this is where it's going to store the information, because a domain controller is any server that hosts Active Directory what? Database. Okay, so it is going to store it on C, Windows, NTDS folder. Okay, and the rest. So click next, and here you get a summary of what we've done. Configure the server as additional Active Directory domain controller for the domain K-BEST.com. Here, site name, that's the default site, because we are not moving the domain controller to a different what? Location. Additional option, read only domain controller. No. Should we install global catalog services? Yes. DNS service? Yes. Update DNS delegation? No. Source domain controller, any writable domain controller in our what? In our domain database, where to store? Yes. Then what? The DNS service will be configured on this computer. Yes, the computer will be configured to use this DNS server as its preferred DNS server. Okay, click next, and here it's checking to see whether we can install this server as a domain controller. Okay, so if this server meet the requirement, then you can install. Then yes, it says the prerequisite check passed successfully. Click install to begin the installation. So click install and you are good to go. Okay, so check, you can see some progress here. Checking domain upgrade status. Okay, waiting for DNS installation to finish. So our server is installing DNS rule, and after installation of DNS rule, so what? Replicate what is in our DCO1 to our what? DCO2, and DCO2 is a domain controller to our domain K-BEST.com. Okay, so after that we will check and see whether DCO2 have been added to our domain, and we will check how many domain controllers are we having in our domain now. Okay, and we will check again whether the informations or the objects in DCO1 have been replicated to DCO2. If all these things was able to what do, then it means we now have our what domain controller 2. So the installation of or the promotion of a domain controller have finished, and we are about to what sign out. So our server is going to restart, and now we have our domain controller 2 online. Okay, so let's wait for our server 2 restart. Yeah, so let's enter our password and enter this domain controller 2. 1 2 3 4 5 QW. Sorry, 2 3 4 5. So this is our domain controller what 2, because we promoted it to a domain controller. Now the background have what changed, because the time we started promoting it, the background was not like this, and after the promotion the background have changed to the background of what of our main domain controller. Okay, so this is our domain controller 1, and this is our domain controller 2 for now, and everything have changed. So server manager is loading, and let's see if server manager finish. Let's see whether DNS role and Active Directory role is on this server. Okay, if DNS role is on it, then it tells that this server has been what promoted to a domain controller. So this is the Active Directory role and this is DNS. Wow. So we now have our second server to be a domain controller what 2. Let's see whether all things in DCO1 are they in DCO2 too. Yay! This K-BEST.com, and this is accounts department, IT department, research department, sales department. Let's see our DC1. K-BEST.com, accounts department, IT department, research department, sales department. It means it have everything in DC1 now is in DC what 2. So DC2 is a domain controller 2 and DC1 is the domain controller 1. Okay, so we now have our domain controller what 2. So let's click on domain controllers. Let's on the domain controller 1, let's see our domain controllers. So we now have DCO1, which was our first domain controller, and we have DCO2, our second domain controller. And let's check our second domain, and let's click on the domain controllers. We have 1 and 2. It means we've added the domain controller 2 to our domain. So this is how you are going to add a domain controller to your domain. Don't forget, my name is Kenneth Gideon, and welcome to K-BEST.IT. Thank you for staying with Kenneth, okay, and K-BEST. I wish you will still enjoy more with us. Thank you, and have a nice day. God bless you too. Amen.